This is my interview
Greetings.
with Wi-Fi today. We're gonna take care of my normal stuff. I gotta take care of. I gotta drop certain links. Um, oh, good. You got the button working. Okay,
Yep, I found it.
cool, cool. We drop certain links on my stream web. Do my normal stuff. I do. There's all that posted. Now, let's get my
Mic check 1 2 3. Mic check 1 2 3.
I'm gonna figure out how to be able to send all these promos out beforehand, so I don't have to do this when the stream starts.
I
I'm trying to
understand.
promote it across Discord. There's still a lot to figure out about all this YouTube stuff. It's quite interesting, and you also get a lot of learning in there as well. I think I got everything.
Yeah, as soon as I make it big, I'm hiring a producer to do all this stuff for me.
Yeah, I
Gold
want to
for this.
hire. Yeah, I want to hire somebody whenever I get bigger. Hire somebody to do all that background stuff. I gotta worry about it. Be like, what's that dude's name? He's got a show, but he's got a lot of people in the back. Does all that stuff.
You
Not
got me.
well, not well. I mean, technically he does too. Tim Pool, he does too. But I was thinking about someone else though. But yeah,
Yeah, I think most of them do.
yeah,
No one's got
most of
time to
them
do all
bigger
this.
ones, do, yeah. But yeah, welcome everybody. I think I got everything set up and everything, all the links up there and everything. So let's go ahead and get this interview on Christian libertarianism. Because if I remember correctly, that was what we was interviewing, right? Because it
Yep.
was Christian libertarianism. That's what I thought. Okay.
Or conservatarianism for short, if you
Or
want to combine those two
conservatarianism.
words.
Yeah, for sure. Um, But yeah, chat, I'm gonna get y'all involved and everything. I want y'all to think about this question throughout the interview. Do you agree with Christian libertarianism? Yes or no? Because there's gonna be a poll at the end to see whether or not y'all agree or not. So yeah, um,
And
my
anyone
co-
that does disagree, I want to know why and why if you have a better suggestion.
hello, old Joe. I see you over there in I5's chat. Hello, old Joe.
Oh yeah, Old
Um,
Joe's one of my classics. He says he always agrees with iFi every time.
yeah, I see that.
Hail
Um,
Emperor Phi.
but But yeah, let's go ahead and get started with this interview, though. My first question is, I let's just start off with the basics. What is Christian libertarianism?
So conservatarianism is when you have a person who's trying to find a political home that doesn't quite fit into the libertarian camp or the conservative camps. And so in modern times, your typical
So it's
conservatives are your rhinos, your neocons, all those, Republicans and stuff. And then your libertarians are mostly hail from the Libertarian Party, which was kind of going in one direction, but completely failed. And so neither one of those groups addresses the problems that we are concerned about. So what we want is the best of both worlds. We want a conservative libertarian party, which doesn't exist, and which is why I had to create it. So basically, from like mainstream politics, most people are only familiar with like the Democrats and the Republicans, and very, very, very few people have ever even heard of like the third party choice or like the independent party or whatever, or the Libertarian Party. And
Yeah,
so
middle party, yeah.
so that would be a good place to start to understand where we're coming from. And so once you start your journey through the Libertarian Party, you then find out that that still doesn't answer the final questions that we have. And so Libertarian Party is too broad of a tent, that the umbrella includes lots of like left-wing people as well as some right-wing people. And so their main focus is just to make the government smaller, which we're all for. You know, we love that idea, but we don't want to become allies with like, you know, woke leftists and stuff like that in order to accomplish that goal. So
Yeah.
what conservatarians are like your typical, you know, right-wing conservative people that you would typically see like in a Republican group, but we don't support big government like Republicans do, because Republicans not only love our big government, they want to make it even bigger. And so we're not a fan of that either. So like I said, we don't fit into either group. We don't fit into the libertarian group, and we don't fit into the conservative group for each reason. So
Wow.
go ahead.
But I thought the conservatives nowadays though aren't like that though. But that
Well, it
I
depends on
thought they
who
were
you
like a
ask.
smaller government. But yeah, I guess it
In
really depends
theory,
on who you
that was
ask.
the traditional idea, was that, you know, Republicans were conservatives, and conservatives generally wanted smaller government, less taxes, you know, all that stuff. That's not true anymore. That hasn't been true in my own lifetime, and I'm Gen X, so I'm over 40 years old, and it has never been true that the Republicans were like the party of small government and more freedom, more liberty, and stuff like that. And so so
Hmm.
getting back to that, that's kind of what led us into like the Ron Paul revolution. And so Ron Paul is probably the most current example I can think of. Is if someone were to ask me who do I think is the best, you know, publicly well-known example of a conservatarian, I don't
Ron
know.
Paul.
I don't know Ron Paul's religious views or his, you know, moral views or whatever, but I would guess he's not your typical left-wing woke, you know, immoral type person. And
Yeah.
so it's pretty safe to assume that he would at least be, you know, good enough to begin the discussion for a conservatarian.
Hmm. Yeah.
But but of course he just ran as a libertarian, you know, back in when he was running for president, trying to just break the mold of the deep states uniparty, which really doesn't matter which one you vote for because they're all socialist authoritarian. So it, you know, doesn't matter whether they say they love Jesus or not. All they care about is big government and stealing from the citizens. And so that's what we're not fans of.
Yeah. So talking of government, you'd say your little government, but what else would describe the government?
More
Any far as I know.
small local focus rather than large federal setup. And so we're not
So
opposed to government. You know, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that we are anarchists. You know,
yeah.
anytime you talk to a libertarian, they sound like they're talking about anarchy, you know, because some of them are anarchists. But even if we dream of, you know, some utopia that's not possible with humans on the planet, of some sort of like Ancapistan, you know, where it's like pure anarchy, pure free market capitalism and
You could
whatever,
never get to that. Yeah.
you can't ever achieve that in real life.
Yeah.
So libertarians admit that that's just a pipe dream and we don't take it serious. So, but we aren't arguing for no government. We're just arguing to try to get the government as small as possible, yet still have a, you know, unified, solid country that's safe and secure and has its own economy its citizens are safe from, invaders and cartels or whatever. And that's it. That's all we want from the government.
So essentially, like what the founding fathers wanted, I would say. I think that's basically what they wanted.
Yeah, they were even a little too friendly to, like, larger governments, but at least they were going in the right direction. They were very strongly leaning in the direction of a smaller, more libertarian focused government. The founding fathers were. And even
Yeah,
the early America showed good signs of that being possible. Unfortunately, just time and corruption always leads to more socialism and more authoritarians, and here we are today. We're
yeah,
almost as bad as any other, like, third world country at this point, because we have become so heavy-handed big government and so socialist that, it's just a lie to pretend that we're capitalists and libertarians.
yeah. Because I mean, it's a surprise that we're not done as far as a country, because usually countries would die out by this point. The fact that we've lasted this long is amazing.
I think the only reason why we lasted this long was because of our strong roots in that libertarian capitalism. Unfortunately, now we're just kind of like running on fumes at this point. And so, even though, people say, well, we're still the greatest country in the world, that's a really low bar to set, first of all, because if you look at all the other countries in the world, they're so bad that, it's like, it's not even funny. But and again, if you're comparing yourself to those countries, you kind of already failed on your own, because if you were just looking at your own quality and merits, you would realize that you're not really doing that great either. So we're running on a lot of old money and just lots of misguided faith. People still think that the US dollar is like a good investment and stuff like that, like third world countries that don't have clean water or electricity and stuff like that. That's what's keeping America going. But at this point, it's just completely taken over by the deep state oligarchs and the military industrial complex and the pharmaceutical industrial complex, and the next it'll be the technology industrial complex. It's just one crony capitalist after another, just colluding with the government in order to maintain their, uniparty oligarchy. And so
Hmm.
again, that's the thing we're trying to fight against. We're trying to, first of all, there should be no collusion between any privately owned company and the government.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's what crony capitalism is, and that's what leads to fascism, by the way. And I know people don't like to, use that word anymore, but that word has meaning. And if anything, we are rapidly becoming a fascist country day by day. And yes, I know, everyone's going to start saying he's saying we're Nazis and stuff like that, but Nazis are just like one brand of fascism, which we can
Yeah,
get into that as well. But
because
but
you,
then
yeah,
but then all the Democrats try to argue that somehow communism is a better alternative than, being like halfway capitalist and being like fascist or whatever. They'd rather just go full communist and just completely eliminate capitalism altogether and
yeah.
just go
But
full
for the
dictatorship.
Christian libertarians say, um,
So the Christian libertarians are on the opposite end of that spectrum. So you couldn't be more opposite, black and white, in this argument than what a communist is, basically. There's two types of communism. There's real communism, and there's the fake bullshit communism that everyone pretends that they're doing. And so the actual definition of communism, according to Marx, is an anarchist state that utilizes socialism to, um, run the economy, which is complete bullshit, because the socialism is when the government seizes the means of production, like,
y-
your land,
yeah,
labor, and fruit, stuff like that. And so if you have an anarchist state, that means you have no state or government. And so how can you centrally plan the economy if you have no government to centrally
yeah,
plan it?
you can't,
So that's
yeah,
why the actual definition has never worked
but
ever in human history. What really happens is you get a bunch of like socialists together, and they always promise you it's going to be democratic, bro. Trust me. And so
yeah,
they
yeah, but Yeah, but I think we veered off a little bit too far. We need to get back to the
Well, I was telling you the opposite of Christian, just so you know who the opposing team is and understand our view better. So our view is not only is morality the key important foundation of our view, the second most important pillar of society is capitalism, the free market access to private exchange of goods and services. And
yeah.
so socialism is our main enemy. That is like the anti capitalism is socialism.
So Christian libertarians would be pro-capitalism. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. It's not optional. And so that's why some people try to like pick and choose parts. Like they say, well, I kind of like some right wing values and stuff like that, but I'm a socialist, so I want the government to take all my money and spend it wherever they want. And we conservatarians are like, no, it's your money. The government shouldn't be allowed to steal it, even if you democratically voted to steal my money. That doesn't make it moral to take it from me just because you and all your buddies voted to steal my money. And so that's how they always sell it to you. They always sell it to you like it's going to be democratic. It's all about the people. It's protecting the workers' rights and blah blah bullshit. That's the communist spiel that they sell you. So we're not buying it. We completely reject it 100%. And so not only are we morally based, which again, communism is immorally based. The first thing they do is get rid of religion. So that's like step
Yeah.
number 1 is kill religion. Step number 2 is seize the means of production, which is socialism. And now you've completely destroyed all morality and capitalism. And of course, it's going to be an authoritarian government, which is the third final piece, which again, conservatarians are moral capitalists that support a very small, limited libertarian government.
Yeah.
And so the opposite is that, it's the immoral socialist
Socialist.
authoritarians.
Yeah. No. 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 God. No. Nothing. Like
Well,
no
the
God.
state
No
is their
morality.
god, and that's why they
Yeah.
get
The
to take all
state
your
is
money.
their God, but it's subjective morality though. There's no objectivity to it.
Exactly. So, what is a Christian libertarian? It is a person who puts number one important foundation is morality. And obviously, I would be arguing from like a Christian point of view that
First
Christian
view. Yeah.
morality is
Of
the
course. Yeah.
superior choice. But I wouldn't argue that that means we should then combine church and state into a theocracy, which is again is what separates us from your typical neocons and modern Republicans and stuff. They think that we should use
A
Christianity as a
theocracy.
weapon and make it like a government law that will be enforced by law and guns and like the official state policy is to become a Christian. And so obviously if you study Christianity you can see lots of problems with that, but most modern Christians don't. They'll sit there and argue with me that the best answer is to create a theocracy like we had in the dark ages in the Europe. So they want a new pope to take over America and become this new theocracy Christian state.
Yeah.
And that's complete
So.
garbage. And so again, see,
Yeah.
we're opposites in different directions. We're opposites from the authoritarian conservatives, even though we agree that Christianity is the best. We don't agree that the government should enforce it and that a
Yeah.
huge government should be controlling your lives. And on the libertarian front, we disagree with the left wing of the libertarians that think that socialism is an option and that immorality is okay. And so that's why I said we can't fit into either camp because we disagree with each strongly. But of course, we're not even debating the immoral socialist authoritarians because they're not even on our radar. They are like the worst, disgusting, most subhuman evil possible. And so we don't even consider. We're not even at the same table with them debating them. We're too busy debating the right wing and the libertarians.
Yeah.
So
So is there any other things regarding how the government would look for us Christian libertarians?
So what we want is the smallest government humanly possible. So obviously you're going to need things like national security. You have to have the foundations of morality and the rule of law. So you're not allowed to kill or steal or lie.
Yeah.
The government would enforce that, because obviously if you try to let every private individual enforce that, you're going to have people just doing vigilante justice or
Yeah, you're gonna have
cartels forming.
chaos.
And so obviously we're going to agree to some formal,
Court
structured
system.
government that has like, I would rather have like judges rather than like, presidents or kings or whatever.
Yeah.
And so my government would just have like judges are the ultimate authority in the government, and all they do is enforce the rule of law. And so as long as the rule of law is obeyed, then the government has nothing else to say or do. They don't tell you like where to live or who you're allowed to associate with or what religion you're allowed to worship or what speech you're allowed to use or anything like that. And so it's all about maximum freedom within a moral constraint. So again, we're not arguing anarchy. Anarchists are arguing just, man is it's free for all, and man does whatever he wants and no one can tell him what to do. But
Yeah.
libertarians say we have some laws, we have the rule of law, but that's it. That doesn't mean we just recreate the same bloated government we have today. It just means that we have the absolute bare minimum, safety and security. We have like border enforcement, border patrol to stop people from just flooding in the country and screwing everything up. And it has no bearing on the economy whatsoever. So here's another good
Cause,
example of what the government has no place doing. So every time you hear like your president or whatever say, I'm going to fix the economy because I'm going to create these new tariffs and these new taxes and blah, 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 blah. That's the number one red flag that they're getting ready to fuck up your economy, because the government never does anything good for the economy other than stay out of the way.
so so y'all would completely want the government, though, from a Christian libertarian point of view, to stay out of the economy.
Completely. The only role the government would have is to make sure that citizens are not stealing from each other or killing each other or lying about contracts or
Well,
whatever.
that goes back to morality. So that's the
Right,
moral
but that's
point.
it. That's the limit of the government. It
That's the
can't go
limit of the
above and beyond
government.
that.
So yeah.
So they can't take your money and call it taxes and call it democratic because your neighbors voted to steal your money. They can't like affect, privately owned businesses and tell them like what they're allowed to do or what they're not allowed to do within the constraints of morality. As long as you're not killing or stealing anything,
Yeah.
then that's it. And so
So
there's no taxes, there's no regulations, there's no
so
tariffs, there's none of that stuff.
so how does the government function without having some money incoming? So where's
That
the government gonna get the income?
again, a absolute bare minimum government could be funded through something like, property tax or something like that. That's something even us.
Oh, so y'all would agree with just property tax, no other tax but
Right,
property
but
tax.
only to
Because
pay
of the bare
for like
minimumness of the government.
for
Yeah.
like 3 judges' salaries and a National Guard, which is mostly volunteer, by the way. Like regulated militias is all you need in order to effectively patrol your lands and enforce national security, like a National Guard.
Yeah.
So whatever isn't covered by volunteer, well regulated militias can be covered in through property taxes or whatever.
Mhm.
So
Uh,
again, I can see that at some
right.
point we have to draw the line. I'm not saying we're going to have zero taxes. We're going to have
Yeah.
darn near zero taxes, because the salaries of 3 judges and a very small well regulated militia doesn't cost that much. It doesn't cost billions of dollars. It's just going to be like, maybe, I don't know, 200K, 300K top, something like that. And if the whole country is paying that, your tax is going to be so low. It's going to be like, $1 a year or something in your property taxes.
Yeah.
So that's what we're
Yeah,
arguing for.
that I like that. The government staying out of the economy, bare minimum taxes. I like that. That
And
sounds
that also
very.
includes like fighting foreign wars and doing like proxy wars with communist countries and stuff like that. Again, you're not taking our money to do that. If you want to go fight a war with some foreign country, whatever, feel free. It's a free country. But if you steal my money and then use my money to go bomb brown people in the Middle East or something like that, that's not a good use of my tax money. And nor did I ever agree to that or find that morally acceptable. So
Yeah.
um, that's why I'm talking. We're like worlds apart from what we're dealing with today. We're not anywhere near anything that would even resemble a conservatarian government.
Yeah, but it could be possible to get there though. I'm
No,
sure.
not under our rule,
Well,
but
not. What do you mean not under our rule?
I mean, like if the conservatarians are in control of the country, there would never be any like proxy wars or anything like that with
Well,
foreign countries.
but we can. What I'm saying is we can get there though. That we'd have sort of like a similar thing to that though if everybody would come together and be willing to do that. But
Oh, you're
you'd have to get
saying
a
like it's possible to get to a conservatarian goal, is what you're saying.
yeah, conservatarian or Christian libertarian. I don't know which
Oh
way
yeah,
you
I mean
want to
it's
call it.
theoretically possible, but all you the
Yeah,
only missing ingredient is good and intelligent people. So, like I said, there's a very very small audience for this message, and so um,
yeah,
I've tried to just for fun try to engage in like blood sports debates and stuff like that, and those don't usually go over too well because people love licking boots and they love their giant big governments. And even if they claim to love Jesus or whatever, they don't care about stealing your money or using your tax dollars for completely immoral things or whatever. But in the same breath, they'll tell you that that's their Christian goal is to create this giant empire that creates a new world order that controls everyone's thoughts and becomes the new theocracy that the Catholics would
um,
even be jealous of. And
yeah.
so that's why we're not even remotely interested in any of those conversations. But
Yeah, I can understand that. Now getting into, I think we've covered everything as far as the what the government would look like. I do believe, unless there's something else that I'm
I mean, there's
missing.
all kinds of facets. There's things like um, the immoral acts of like murdering babies with your tax dollars. There's all kinds of horrible stuff that goes on in our country right now.
That would
That
not be going on in a Christian libertarian country, of course.
no, since
I would totally say we need to get rid of the idea of abortion because that's not biblical. Abortion is
yeah,
unbiblical.
murdering
I
innocent
mean,
children is not a moral act,
it's not a moral act. Yeah,
and using stolen money from your citizens to pay for these things is the most immoral thing you could possibly do.
yeah, for sure. Um, but yeah, I guess we could probably get more in depth on the government because that could probably we could probably be here for hours talking about
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It
what the
depends on how
government will
deep
look
you want to
like.
go and what you want to compare and contrast to.
Yeah, maybe we could get more into that in a separate episode. But I'm just trying
Okay.
to get the basic general ideas of what Christian
So
libertarian
the
is right
basics
now.
on the economy is a free market capitalist economy. So that means private ownership of your land, labor, and fruit, and the
Yeah,
voluntary exchange of goods and services. So as long as you obey the rule of law, the government should have nothing to say about who you sell to, what you're selling, why you're selling it, how much profit you're making off of it, or whatever. None of those things is the government's business. And one
yeah,
of the oldest tricks in the book that always leads to socialism is the first thing they'll say is, "What about unions? We need unions to protect the workers' rights." And if you're well versed in politics, you know immediately that's a red flag from the commie bullshit because that's how they sell socialism to you. They always make it sound like these poor souls are being, you know, bullied by these big rich, corporations or whatever. And so they
yeah.
need the government to intervene and tell these mean corporations how much they're allowed to pay their workers and stuff like that. And so in a free market
Uh,
capitalist system, as long as you agree to provide a service in exchange for money or whatever, then that's voluntary. So
mm-hmm.
as long as your boss isn't pointing a gun to your head and forcing you to do slave labor, then anything is fair game. And so a lot of people
Yeah,
say, "Oh, what about children and what about overtime and old people who can't make choices for themselves or whatever. They always try to come up with some bullshit excuse, but all it does is lead you right back into socialism, because then all unions do is form bigger unions, which eventually just becomes the government. And then the government just takes all your money and controls all your businesses.
Yeah. So, but y'all would say, as far as Christian libertarianism, no government intervention,
Zero. The
zero
government has
in the
zero
economy.
business in
So
your
even
economy.
far as setting wages and things like that, it would be
Anything, hours, wages, work conditions, anything is not the government's business. Because again, if you don't want to work for a company because they're so mean to their employees, they pay them so low and they make them work in sweatshops, and they don't give them any of the profit of the business, then don't work for that company. Go start your own company and you make your own goods and services, and you're free to do it as you deem. And so
yeah,
that's the beauty of capitalism, but that's also the catch, is it requires hard work and the ability to produce, quality, merit, and value. And that's why the left wing hates it so much, because they want the free government handouts and the government to tell all of these big mean companies how much money they deserve for
yeah,
free, just because they're employed by the company. Now they suddenly get like shareholder percentages of the company, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But that's the world we live in.
yeah. I think we've covered all the pretty much basics of what it looks like as far as the government. Like I say, maybe some other point we could get more into the details. I want to move on to the next question now.
Okay, go ahead.
So what does the home life look like as far as a Christian libertarian? What does that look like?
So it's back
Like,
into the moral aspect. So the Christian portion of conservataria is that we are very Christian, founded uh, and organized. And so a
mhm,
home life is obviously a patriarchy, in which the father is the head of the household of one wife, a one female woman wife, and all the children submit to the parents. And
yeah,
again, the government has zero role in that structure. The government doesn't tell the husband how he's allowed to raise his house and to treat his family or anything, so long as he obeys the law, as long as he's not
and
killing them or
yeah.
lying or stealing.
or
Um,
or, or you know, obviously doing other wrong acts towards them. As long as it doesn't
well,
go against morality, right?
that's where it starts getting sticky. So um, this is where you get into real hot debates about how far you want to go towards a theocracy. So a Christian libertarian argues that we should go in the direction of autonomy. That means the houses are free to function as they please, and the government has little to no role in it whatsoever. Now, if you want to try and argue that a Christian society has a moral obligation to oversee every house and make sure they're all good, peaceful, loving, neighbors, then you start tiptoeing into that direction of a theocracy. Because if you're going to use government force to do this, then we can have police officers showing up at your house and saying, one of your neighbors reported you were spanking your child the other day, and we don't allow spanking children in this country, so you're going to jail. Is that the country you want to live in?
But I mean, I'm not saying far as like whooping your child, things like that. Wouldn't you say still that the government should be on some level making sure a man doesn't do anything like like completely like beating his child, like or wife or whatever?
That's the problem.
That's the wouldn't that be considered still a moral thing that the government
Yeah.
should make sure
It seems
it doesn't
to
happen?
many people that we have a moral imperative to intervene. And so that's where the floodgates open, because as soon as the government has a moral imperative to intervene, then they decide how your house is going to be run.
So are you saying that then the community should be the one that does the
I
intervention?
think
Because
it should
shouldn't
be
some
way more focused on the community and way more focused on the household itself. So if you have a problem with a particular household, the first thing you should do is go to his local church.
Well, yeah, that's assuming that the person is Christian, which I know for
Right.
Christian libertarian, it's obviously going to be
Exactly. So what if they're
Christian.
not Christian?
What the
Are they
thing is,
not bound to Christian
what do you do
morals?
about the non-Christians though that would be living in
Well,
this
in order to be
country though?
consistent, conservatarians argue that it doesn't matter whether or not you subscribe to Christianity or not, you're still bound to our bare minimum fundamental rules, the rule of law. And so
Yeah,
that's why we start from there and then argue from that direction. We don't say that's the final straw, like there's no government laws. We just say we want them to be as small as possible. Now that we may have to expand the laws to include how, married couples treat each other. And so if you want to keep violence out of your community, you'll have to make that a law of the land that will be enforced by the government.
yeah.
Same question. Do you want the government telling you whether or not you're allowed to spank your children? Because that is a question the government would answer.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to go that far though,
Yeah, it
providing that
does.
you.
That's the argument. The argument is either you control your house or the government controls your house. And the more the government controls your house, eventually you will have no control whatsoever. And you may say, well, there's nothing wrong with making laws against, spousal abuse, for example. But that doesn't mean that you can't spank your children. So you can't beat your wife, but you can beat your children, correct?
No, I never said that. I said you.
No,
It
I'm
doesn't.
asking you like we're arguing it. I'm just seeing if you can see where this argument goes.
Well, you
Like, is
couldn't
that where
beat
you draw
either
the line?
one. You can whoop your child if your child gets out of line.
Exactly. Okay,
But
well then
whooping is
some.
not beating though. Beating and whooping are two different levels.
Okay, well, you call it whatever word you want. It's still physically applying force on your child. So however you want to phrase it, it's still the
Yeah,
same thing.
but the whooping is a disciplinarian thing, not
I understand the
necessarily.
difference between discipline and violence, but but again, do you want the government to decide when it's discipline or when it's violence?
Yeah, but this government would be mainly made up of people that should know morality, though, right? Because you're talking about a Christian
That's the
libertarian
theory. What
society.
happens when the government gets out of touch with morality and it just forbids any form of punishment?
Well, if the basis of the government is Christian libertarianism, how could it get out of touch of morality if it's
Very
if it's
easily, because
if it
human corruption,
consistently stays with Christian libertarianism?
because of human laziness and corruption. Because even if you start off with the perfect system, it's very easy to corrupt it and to get
Well, you
away
can't
from that
have a
system.
perfect system. That's impossible.
You can have a near perfect system. I can't
Eh,
think of a more perfect system than that.
yeah, maybe, but that's still. I think that would be. I think
The
that
only
would
perfect
even.
system would be Jesus is our king on earth. He's
Yeah,
the
that would be
government,
the only perfect system. Be Jesus on earth,
but he's not
King.
here. So now we have to,
You know.
to take the next best thing. The next most perfect system is conservatarianism, which says the government should not be the deciding factor in how your house is raised. The quality of your home depends on the father, period. If the father fails, the house fails.
Yeah, but what I keep thinking of though is, I mean, I would understand that obviously there'd always be mainly Christians that live in this Christian libertarian society, but what do you do about the non-Christians
they
that
they are
is
still
just a.
subject to the moral laws that we enforce. So like they're
But
not
what
they're not
happens
allowed to
if?
kill and steal and lie according to Christian values, whether or not
But
they are Christians.
but what do you do about the if you are very limited on the laws you put into place? What do you do about the laws that you don't clearly define for them people? Because obviously
That's
Christians in themselves wouldn't go around, beating their wife, beating their children, but like, what about the ones who are not Christians? Wouldn't they take that advantage to? I mean, maybe I'm not saying that they all do, because there are a lot of moral people that are not Christian. Obviously, I know people that are pretty moral that are not
ethical,
necessarily that
probably.
are not Christian. But but
Again,
they're
the law applies to all citizens equally, whether or not you subscribe to Christianity or not. You live in a Christian nation, so to speak, short of a theocracy. So a conservatarian, libertarian country can still be like a predominantly Christian valued system, even if though it doesn't enforce Christianity on all of its citizens.
yeah.
Again, we just have like a bare minimum moral standard, basically like the 10 Commandments, for example. Like that's a rule of law that we can all agree on, whether you're Muslim, Jew, atheist, whatever, it doesn't matter. They all agree that it's bad to steal, kill, and lie. And if they agree to those terms, then they are welcome in the country.
So basically, so limited as far as rules, it would be as limited as the law of Moses. What you're
Well,
saying.
the law of Moses has its own set of problems. I would
Yeah,
say
well, yeah, that's those are problems, but I'm saying the limitations
it's
though.
more like a Christian
Is
society, like
that limited though? It only has like 100 and some commandments as
yeah,
far
that's
as
those
laws
laws
or
used.
laws.
I would set it the example
Although
as
technically,
early Christians.
upgrading it to modern standards, they probably has closer to 400.
So
Because you
early
got
Christians, you can find plenty examples of moral living standards about how
yeah,
to actually obey God's word and not get caught up in like shrimp and fibers and stuff like that, but things that God actually cares about lying, killing, and stealing. And as long as you abide by those laws, you can at least have a society standard. Now, obviously, you're going to have, people that don't quite follow the letter of the law very well. And so as long as they obey the bare minimum rule of law, then you're still allowed to keep your freedom, for example. So as soon as you start breaking the rule of law, obviously we're going to have prisons or just deport you straight up out of the country because, we don't want your kind. And so, there's ways to handle that problem, but it's easily done.
yeah,
But again, I'm not arguing a theocracy, a full-on theocracy, like a lot of the modern conservatives you'll hear about. Is even in the panel verse here, you'll hear lots of Catholics and ortho bros and stuff like that arguing that we need a bigger government, a more heavier taxed government with more machine guns and billy clubs over people's heads to use the government to force people into their version of Christianity, whatever that means. And we already
yeah,
know what the Catholic version is. If you just study your history in medieval Europe, the Dark Ages was
yeah.
because
If
of
you,
the Catholic reign of theocracy all
yeah.
over all the European countries.
Yeah, and
So,
that didn't end up so well for us a
yeah,
theocracy because
yeah,
they wound up taking people out that did not convert to Catholicism.
including actual
Uh,
Christians. So
yeah,
it's a
and
hilarious little
yeah, they
blurb in
went
our
way too
history.
far with their theocracy. But but is there a? I guess that's like the bare basics of what home life will look like under a Christian
It would be as much Christian
libertarian.
morality as you can influence on your community without using a gun to force them to do it. So
And you'd mainly allow the church to influence that.
that should be your
You're
number
saying,
one influence in life. Your number one
yeah.
government influence in life should be your church leaders.
I don't know if that's a government, but okay.
It can be. I don't have any problem with like church leaders becoming like mayors and governors and
Oh,
representatives
okay.
or whatever. And so obviously they would be the best people to ask moral advice on how to run your country instead
Yeah,
of a bunch of atheist, butthurt, anti-theists running your government. And so again, the whole point of a conservatarian country is to emphasize the foundation of Christianity and to do it with the least amount of government intrusion as possible.
yeah,
So even in our churches, I don't know what your church is like, but my church, we have leaders, we have like elders who we go to for really important questions, but we don't have elders show up at our house every day and tell us like how we're allowed to talk to our spouse or blah 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 and all the little fine details in life. And now getting back to your example of like, well, what happens when there's a man who's not treating his wife very well? Again, you can bring that up to the elder and see if that's something they want to personally intervene in, like show up at your house and tell you, you know, this sort of behavior won't be tolerated or whatever. But again, how much power do you want to give that person? Do you want the elder to be able to decide whether or not your wife is allowed to leave you
Well,
because she
that should be a
feels
decision that y'all
threatened?
discuss. That shouldn't be a that should be a that's called counseling. They need to counsel you on some of
What if
these
she
things.
calls it abuse, but you're not actually like physically harming her, but you're just saying things that hurt her feelings or whatever?
Well, that's where they have to. That's where you'd have to talk to the priest and have to do some investigating,
That's
I
what
guess.
your hopefully correct religion will lead you in the right direction. Do you think a secular governor would be better at handling that situation?
Secular government would not be at all.
Like a mayor or governor or president, a secular one or an atheist one? Would
They would
that be a
not.
better?
They would not be because they have no they have no standing in that really
Okay, so
because they're not they don't see marriage as a covenant or marriage as a covenant. It's
right.
an agreement
And
before
so
God.
we
It's a
we already
religious
solved that.
thing.
We
It's
already
not
solved
a
that problem in
secular thing.
our conservatarian country. It's definitely a covenant between God and that man and that couple. And the most authority the person that has in that situation would be like your church leader
Yeah, that would be the one that would have the most authority in that situation because
on whether or
they
not your marriage
understand.
is valid and remains
Yeah,
valid.
yeah, they don't understand that as a covenant
Yep.
between you and God, between the man and the woman in that covenant.
So there you go. There's the beauty of conservatarianism. It answers all of the questions, all of the possible problems we can have in life. That is the best answer.
No offense, but I don't think any form of government solves every problem unless you're talking about God being
It's the
over
best
everybody.
government you can have
No
short of
offense on that
Jesus.
one, I but
Short of Jesus being your king, it's the best government you're going to be able to achieve here on earth.
yeah, maybe.
What's a better one?
Well, I don't know of any right now, but it's the best one that I've heard of probably. But there might be a better one out there. I don't know. I have to
I, I've
explore.
I've been waiting for
There's
a
plenty of
rebuttal.
ideas on what government should look like out there.
I've tried asking all stripes and flavors what's a better idea. No one has a better response yet, so I'm still waiting.
Mm.
Any minute now, I'm sure someone will figure it out.
Yeah,
Anyways, obviously it's not a perfect system because any system that has humans involved is not going to
it's
be
not
perfect.
perfect. Yeah.
And
So
so all you can do is control for corruption, evil, and stupidity, and that's the best chance you have is conservatarianism.
yeah. So I guess that's the basis of what home life will look like. So I guess that leads us into the next question. Because we was talking about church. What does church life look like to Christian libertarians, and also what form of Christianity would best fit Christian libertarian if there is one?
The one true church, obviously.
What exactly would Christian libertarians consider the one true church though? There's so many denominations. So what would be the one true
Oh,
church?
that's easy. It's non-denominational. That's the
Like
answer.
non-denominational.
It's the
Okay.
one true universal church.
Uh, yeah, but non-denoms also have their flaws because they're humans.
I'll give you a hint. It's a Protestant group.
Well, yeah, non-denoms are Protestant, but they do have their flaws though, because the not certain non-denoms have their they have different doctrines from other ones.
I
I've
think
noticed.
we can all agree
I don't
on
think
a
they're
very
universal.
I think we can all agree on a very, very vague and generalized version of Christianity that covers most of the bases.
Yeah.
Obviously, mankind is going to debate religion till the end of time, and they may never get the right answer and never discover the one true church. It may be here now, and there's just not many people subscribe to it. Um, I think it's pretty easy to figure it out, but that's just the whole separate religion debate that we can get into. But
Yeah.
as far as this discussion is concerned, we can just cut it off at the very vague general sense of Christianity. So, whenever
Yeah.
we can even include the Jews in this one, whenever you hear modern people say Judeo-Christian values, they're basically talking about the Ten Commandments. And so, most Christians still subscribe to most of the Ten Commandments, and so um, that's good enough as a starting place to say those are the fundamentals of what we would call a Christian libertarian society.
Yeah, and that would also make up what the fundamentals, some of the basic fundamentals of what church will look like in a Christian libertarian society,
Correct.
along with
And
all the other mysteries. The holy mysteries would obviously be there as well, as far as like the
mm,
nature of God and everything.
right, but the mysteries aren't important for like your government laws
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
but it's important for church life. That's what I'm.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That
Well,
was what the question
the,
was.
the
What does church look like?
so
And
church would look like the ideal situation in which you separate church from state. So now that we're taking state out of the equation, and we're only talking about church, then church should be exactly as Jesus prescribed it. So if you're following Jesus' teachings correctly, you get to call yourself a disciple of Christ, aka Christian. And so if everything your church matches up identically to the teachings of Jesus, then I would say you're headed in the right direction.
yeah.
And that's what your church should look like.
So as long as it goes according to the Bible, that's what the church will look like in a Christian
More
libertarian
importantly,
society.
Jesus' teachings in the Bible, because the
Jesus'
Bible
teachings in
contains
the Bible.
the old law and a lot of bickerings and arguments with apostles and non-Christians and confused Christians. So the red letters in the New Testament are of the utmost importance when forming your church.
Hmm.
The one true
So
church.
yeah. So is there anything else about Christian libertarianism that you could tell me before I open up the panel to let people come up and
Um,
ask questions, and we'll put
Again,
that
the
poll down
the
there as well.
FAQs are, I'm not arguing anarchy. I'm not arguing a theocracy, because even though we will allow some form of government that is founded in Christianity, we are not merging the state with the religion, because that's theocracy. And so conservatarians want to remain separate from church and state. They want the state to handle the law and the church to handle the morality and the religion. And the only thing the government worries about is the bare minimum fundamental moral laws. And so,
Yeah.
as long as you understand that, then you can ask any questions appropriately to my position.
Hmm. Yeah.
Also,
No.
I'll go ahead and spoil all of the good reads and good sources to look into. So for conservatarianism, currently there's a channel called Biblical Anarchist or something like that. His name is Jacob Winograd. He's a Christian libertarian. He's a good, normie source to look into this stuff. Um, Ron Paul is probably one of the best libertarian examples we've had in recent history. Dave Smith used to be pretty decent. He's not so great anymore. Plus, he tanked the Libertarian Party, which isn't helping much. As far as economics is concerned, Milton Friedman, Ludwig von Mises, Murray Rothbard, and even like some other social commentaries like Thomas Sowell and maybe even Ayn Rand if you get bored. But anyways, there are groups of people and think tanks that are the good places to look into this stuff. Everyone else, I wouldn't waste too much time with, like blood sports debates with like, ortho bros or whatever is not going to help your journey to finding more answers. And avoid a lot of the institutional things like the mega churches and the mainstream political groups. Like I like the term rhino, except it needs to be updated. It's not just Republicans in name only. I would call it the right wing in name only because there is no more right wing. It's dead. And so the only choices left now are the left wing and the center left wing. And so as long as you understand what paradigm we live in, that'll help you better understand where I'm coming from, being a self-proclaimed only right-wing person left on this planet. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Well, the panel is open now, everybody. So if anyone wants to step up and ask questions, the panel is open, and I'm also putting the poll in the chat. We've got the poll up on YouTube in the chat. I'm still trying to figure out how to put the poll up on my other two platforms as well, the Twitch and the Rumble platform.
I'll go ahead and answer a couple of questions on my chat since there's like two. When does it go from punishment to abuse? That's the difference between discipline and violence. So if you strike your child out of anger, that's violence. If you strike your child out of love, that's discipline. That's the separation of the two. People bring their own personal feelings into punishments. That's a problem. Facts don't care about feelings. So I'm in that camp. Okay, that was my chat.
If there's any questions you see within my chat, because I think you can see my chat as well, you can answer them as well.
I can click over to it. I wasn't watching your chat, by the way, so I don't multitask very good. And when I'm on panel, I even ignore my own chat. So sometimes my chat's like yelling at me, and I'm just like talking, looking at the screen. So
let's see. I don't know how to do this poll though.
But yeah, I'm all about bringing up people for questions, or in chat they can just go berserk. They can ask any kinds of questions, and I'll answer. There is no taboo or off topic question for me. I'll answer any question, so it's up to the host.
I might just have to run the poll only on YouTube because I can't figure out how to run it on Rumble and Twitch. So
and Richard stopped by and said hi. Hi, Richard. If I'm the only resident and emperor, does that not also make you the only slave? That's true. I am all of the above, Richard. And peace be with you.
well, yeah, I don't know why no one's come up yet. I just got back on the tab. So like I say, anyone wants to come up, feel free to come on up. Yeah, peace, Richard. Peace. Welcome. I could post
also
the link to my stream.
I am open for debates if that's the only way certain people can communicate, in your audience. So I don't have any problem debating people. I'd rather have these kinds of conversations where we just talk back and forth about our views, and then you can just ask any questions you want, like all the details you want to know about how we do this and all that sort of thing. Oh, there's another thing that I could have answered. Some people want to know, how do we go about achieving this goal? And so the logistics are a little hairy, but are you familiar with the Amish community?
I am, yes.
Okay. Are you also familiar with like the Free State Project in New Hampshire?
No, I don't think so.
It's basically a little social experiment where they're trying to see if they can get a little libertarian community to kick off in the United States. And it's going okay. It's not great, but they could do much better. But I think if you take the Amish community and the Free State Project and combine those together, you would have a pretty darn good attempt at starting conservataria within the United States.
Yeah.
Like you were saying earlier, it's possible we could all get together like-minded individuals and, actually try to achieve these goals. But again, humans are lazy. And so there's a lot of people who are like, I don't want to have to move or get a new job or.
Yeah. I'll put the link to the panel if you want to put it in your chat there for anyone to pop up if they want to.
Oh, to invite them onto the
Yeah,
stream?
if anyone in your chat wants to pop up and ask questions and stuff.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that with your permission. So, let
Yeah,
me.
because I can't put it in your chat where people can click
I
on it.
will.
Um,
Let's see here. Let me go to my
but yeah,
chat.
anyone in my chat wants to pop up, feel free to pop up.
And let me.
Includes you, Sweater. If you want to pop up and ask that question, you can feel free to pop up.
Okay, StreamYard link is in my chat pinned at the top. So if you guys are brave enough to come on panel with me, bring it.
But yeah, Sweater has a question there. He corrected the interaction part. It's supposed to be interaction.
So in this ideal Christian libertarianism world of yours, how does the interaction between nations work? Is there any reason to attack a neighboring nation? Okay, so I personally don't want to sound too isolationist, but I come strongly from that camp. So if we are going to solve the world's problems, I would submit that we first must solve our own problems. So if we can't get our own house in order, we have zero business telling other countries how to run their house. As far as intervening in foreign nations, the only time our National Guard would be mobilized into a foreign land to engage in war with foreign peoples is if we are allies with a foreign nation and they were impeding in our business. So, for example, if Britain and Conservataria were two allied countries and we were doing business with each other, trading and vacationing in each other's places, and then some mean Russians show up and start sinking our boats while we're trying to visit each other, and we're not doing anything to Russia. We're not messing with their economy or anything like that. Then they would have a problem with Conservataria. We would fully mobilize our military, including creating a new military just to fight these people. And then we would go, probably just wipe them off the map or something, and then we wouldn't have a problem with those people anymore. In the meantime, I don't want to hear one word about any sort of proxy wars or like controlling oil prices or any bullshit democracy spreading like, oh, we got to send democracy to the Middle East. That's why we're there, because we love democracy. And so, we're not falling for any of those bullshit traps. Again, if there's a national security interest with one of our allies, we will hear the debate about whether or not we should get our military involved, which would have to be a voluntary military, by the way, for any foreign wars. So the National Guard is only for protecting our people in our country. So if there's ever a foreign war, they would have to volunteer to fight in that war. So again, you're free to go fight anyone you want to. You just won't do it in the name of Conservataria. You'll just be doing it in the name of your little clubhouse or whatever. So that's how we would handle foreign nations. And no, there's never a reason to attack a neighboring nation unless you want to cleanse the world of socialism, which is much more difficult than it sounds. But anyways.
Well, wait a minute. So there's not ever a reason to attack a neighboring nation? What if that neighboring nation is doing something immoral?
Is that are we the moral arbiters of the planet now, or what's our role? Is this our planet, or is it just sovereign nations' planet? That's a very sticky question.
But that depends on how far immoral they're going, though. Should we allow someone like?
Can you name a single country on Earth that isn't doing something immoral right now?
Yeah, but what about the AHs of the world? What do we do about them?
I don't know what
You know who
AH
I
is.
mean? The mustache man. What do we do about them people?
Oh.
You gotta be careful about saying his name on YouTube.
Okay, so what happens? There's a perfect example. What happens if on your your paved road to hell with your good intentions. You thought you were taking down the bad guys, but then you ended up empowering the much more evil guys. During World War II, the United States government helped create, form, support, and fund the communist parties that we now are suffering from, including in
Yeah,
our own country.
but you're talking about a corrupt government, though. We're saying we're talking about under the government we're talking about is a Christian government, though.
Right. Okay.
So we're
Well, if it's
talking about that would be in a Christian,
so,
like,
if it's a simple
libertarian
numbers
government. So
game,
we're not talking about a corrupt government in this case, like at least not super corrupt.
if it's a simple numbers game,
I mean,
and you can,
granted, there will be some corruptions even in a
there
Christian
always will be.
government.
That's the problem.
That
And
that's human fallacy.
if it's a simple numbers game, I would say you could probably, in good conscience, stop one mass murderer by only murdering one person. So
that's consequentialism, isn't it? When you're a consequentialist,
it depends on how you solve the trolley problem. Do you pull the lever or not?
What do you mean the trolley problem? I'm just saying that that's consequentialism. So you're choosing.
Right. The consequences of pulling the lever is either one man dies or a million people die.
Yeah,
Which one do you want?
Of course, but in that it means that you are saying that you believe in a structured system that would rather see what is right and wrong, and then it's gone for. It doesn't just let it happen. Understand that? That's
again for me, it's simple numbers. So if your choices are
so using the logical idea of how we do it.
That's how my logic works. My logic says if I do nothing and a million people die, versus if I kill one guy and then those million people live, then I will choose that one murder.
But again, hypothetically speaking, by doing what you do, so as I say, the consequentialism idea is like if you could go back kill Hitler because of this, would you? And people go like, oh yeah,
you have to be careful about his name.
It doesn't matter, but anyone that you choose to do this to, okay, in a hypothetical situation. Of course, it's what that does to, again, what we think as a future won't exist here. That's the conundrum in saying that. But it also states in that you will see a structured system of a justice, a judicial system, that it would be okay. This is wrong, that is right, and it's set in stone.
Right.
Nothing.
And I already told James what I would do is let the Nazis and the communists kill each other. And then whoever's left, we would take care of them because we don't want either party in our world.
Yeah, but that's.
But the worst thing you could do is found and support the Communist Party so that they are now controlling the planet we live in, including the governments we all subscribe to.
Well, here exactly that. I mean, so the communist regime, if you will. So would you say it started in Russia, the Red Army?
It started with Marx, but yeah, Russia was the first big explosion.
Yeah. But
Marx was a socialist, not really a communist.
Well, he started the Communist Manifesto.
Karl Marx is a philosopher more than anything. Okay, it's Trotsky or Lenin, I guess you go towards.
I don't care who you blame. I don't like any form of communism, whether it's Marx, Lenin, Stalin, or Mao.
But of course, it comes from the point of where there is nothing for nobody, but only the rich have it, like the bourgeoisie of France, right? Where it comes into that factor, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it had to happen, and there it is. It is here, and it's part of us. Where it's created the mindset. So I would say there's certain faiths that would. These are religious ideologies or theological understandings of the world that are structured like communism, right? Because that's how you come together. Those
are the bad guys. We're trying to fight. I agree. That's the opposite team.
Yeah, but of course it's the opposite team. I am a Christian, and I'd bravely say that's the Christ and Christianity isn't a passive religion. I think that's half-assed.
Do you feel there's a conflict between Christianity and economics? Like Christians are supposed to be like communists or something, or what do you think?
No. I personally think like the taxation system is why we have it. That's a different set of rules. Render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, if you will.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, but our hearts should always give. We should always try and better ourselves and be the good Samaritan. Blah blah blah. But don't be weak on that.
I would even suggest there's a connection between certain two parties and see if you agree with me or not. Whenever you have socialism, you always have authoritarianism, and vice versa. Whenever you have authoritarians, you always have socialism. They just go hand in hand.
Well, authoritarianism can be outside of socialism, though, because even
it can be theoretically. In real life, what happens with humans is it's always one with the other.
Well, in real life as well, because wouldn't you say it's authoritarian to have like a king that's very strict? That's
right, and where does the king get his money from?
That's not
from
necessarily
seizing the means of production,
or fascism,
which is socialism. Feudalism is still socialism, by the way, dude. It's not capitalism.
Feudalism's feudalism. Socialism is socialism.
Where does the king get his money from? Does he go out there and labor in the fields?
Feudalism.
Okay,
does the king run a business?
Yeah, but hang on. But it also instigates again when you go to these things. Okay, the expansion of the Western Foundation, right? What that means. We're way past these things. Now
the West is fallen.
No, the West has not fallen. Oh my God! No.
Where is it thriving? Where is it thriving?
Because when you push to the extreme, okay, it's where it squeezes and the expand comes back. It is. There is a revival.
Where on planet Earth in 2025 is the West thriving?
What high? You mean that? I mean, I guess if you want to say the truth is where America has its dominance with the power of its...
You think America is a good example of the West?
Yeah, of course. Yes, absolutely.
It's the best example that we have, right?
Russia as well. Russia is part of the Western Foundation. The Western Foundation is an age-old principle of where we've come from. Remember that. And like you say, you think it's the commies that are the problem. You think it's this.
No, I know it is the problem. It's socialism. It's always the
problem. Okay, yes, I would, because it's a force to manifest, right? One should work for their own. What is it? It? Bread of their,
the sweat of their brow. Yeah.
On the brow. Yeah, you know it, man. So again, I 100% there. I do. So carry that across and all that, and that's what's lacked, because. Of course, what has it said? That in the end, the contract that the Christ gave, which was the Lord's Prayer, unlike what it was to the Gentile that came, and the Antichrist that is to come is confusing all this mess.
Maybe he's already here. Maybe he's immoral, socialist authoritarianism.
It's unnameable to know. It's not for us to know, right? It's only the Father knows when it hits the hammer on the head, what that means to us.
I think it's pretty obvious to me, but I just pay attention a lot. So,
well, who are you going to say? Go on.
It's the immoral, socialist, authoritarians. Anyone who subscribes to those groups.
But those globalists, right?
Are they anti-Zionism?
It could be Zionism.
And it's the EU, and it's the United States of America, and it's BRICS, and it's
all this to come together. Yes, it's encapsulating. It has to happen, sir. The whole
it's
thing
all of the immoral, socialist, authoritarians.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's
and so this theoretical West of yours was supposed to be fighting against these people. We're supposed to be about moral, capitalist freedoms, liberty, justice. Peace.
Yes, it should. Yes, it should. Yes. And what does it come from? Because of the weak. Because over time, what happens is those people that are the gatekeepers and the leaders have forgoed those things.
Because of the idiotic masses.
That is wrong. No, you understand. It doesn't mean that it's all wrong. People will like suffer death in order not to take the mark. Yeah. So those are the saints, and you got to be good for that.
So recently, are you an American, by the way? Plastic.
No, man.
No,
I mean,
he's
it's in the word. It's in the word there.
Oh, you're Africa. You're
he's
in Africa.
African.
No. I grew up there.
What citizen are you now of?
I'm a dual nationality, so I'm lucky. But I am a British citizen, so yes.
Oh, my condolences.
I
Do you
have
think
family.
Britain still represents the West?
To be honest, it's not the government, but the people within.
The people
You
within,
gotta-
yes. The
no,
government, hell no.
I would
Well, if you
always.
don't count the government, then China's not so bad. But
Well, I
sometimes
mean,
we count the government.
yeah, of course, but I'm not in some ways saying that I'm nihilistic to the idea that we're all broken here. I
Oh,
don't think
I'm
we remember.
pragmatistic in that admitting that we've been defeated, and I don't delude myself into thinking we're still winning.
So what's your
Well,
game? Then? What's your goal? What's your game? If you're going to be like that,
My game is to restore this beloved
so again,
imaginary land
you're
I
not
speak
broken,
of.
so you are not a nihilist. So again, same with you. We will.
I
Restore
like your idea of the West. I just wish you had an actual example in reality that you could point to and say, this is the West.
Well, no, okay. The Western Foundation would be from many arts, wouldn't it? From what we've done, what we're doing.
That's why I was asking you
Huh?
if my definition of the West is correct. Is it moral, capitalist, libertarians? Is that what the West values?
Shit. I mean, that's American ideals on it. So I guess the West.
No,
Yeah,
that's Europeans' definitions as well.
No, but the liberalism idea, liberalism itself today isn't what liberalism was in the, libertarianism, being that the government does not interject with myself and what I get to choose.
A government by the people, for the people.
No, unless they can prove that I am undermining the state and I'm nefarious within that. To conclude those things, unless the number of people agree with my say. That's why we have revolutions. So they should smell it in the water. While we have dicey rule of law, the three principles of our power base that should be, apart from one another. And you're right, they are very incestuous, and they have been. There is a deep rot within us, and maybe you're right. With Kromsky, I think he said that with the rations that sent out all those things. Those ideas. I mean, in Africa, that's why you had Zapo and Swapo and all that.
Is that your second nationality, by the way? You never told us your second nationality.
I'm British by birth, but I grew up in Africa.
South Africa, I'm assuming.
Botswana and Namibia as well. Yeah, 3 countries.
Nice.
Mm.
So, are you seeing a lot of Western values in Africa lately?
When I grew up down in Sub-Sahara, some of the places, but I mean, they still have churches. It depends on money.
Because last time I checked, Russia and China own and control most of Africa at this point. So
they do.
That's pretty much a lost cause.
I mean, that's harsh to say, but that's a lot of
reality.
Yeah, I know.
He super much wants to live in reality as he sees it.
Okay. I guess we haven't even scraped the Congo, have we, for minerals? We're still letting those poor Africans out there dig holes with their fingers, basically, and give us little rocks. It's
diamonds.
No, it's not diamonds. It's like all sorts of other rare earth that's out there. Man,
cell phone ingredients.
I mean, there was this in Namibia when I was there. And a friend I met there in the 90s, they said that NASA came over in this area in the desert, and they locked it off. Is it 90s or 80s? And they locked it off for at least 12 years. No one was allowed in or out, and there's loads of people picking shit up. Basically, asteroid came in, bang, NASA went in, collected it all. So
nice.
So yeah, exactly. But it also means, well, again, our technology, what humans are. Do you agree that we are about to exploit? We are allowed to exploit this world. It's Satan's world per se.
I think we should be stewards of our world, and so good stewards know how to balance exploitation between thriving and prospering.
And I guess when we get to that understanding, we have consequences of our failures, and that's lacking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when, like, like when kings or judges lie, their sins are sort of visceral to the world. That's what we've been lacking. These leaders of ours that go, I mean, I'm a 9/11 kid, if you will. Yeah.
So should we just have more rulers? Will that help?
No, not at all. No consequences of these things. And
What if we only had like 3 judges in there, so they could like break a tie?
No, I don't think it should work that way.
We could call it a tribunal.
Well, we have that anyway, but it doesn't have any teeth. Depends where you are. We've seen this failure time and time again, my brother.
And the only way they can make it to that office is based on merits. So they have to prove they are the most morally sound people in your country in order to achieve that role. So,
but that's hard to say, because no one can be like above others' morals. You can only be like.
Yeah, you can. It's real easy. There's evil people on this planet.
Yeah,
I hate to break it to you.
I know they are. I know they are.
Last time I checked, I didn't murder 6 million people, so I'm slightly more moral than that person.
If you're talking about Hitler in that regard,
no, I was just talking about Stalin on a Monday.
That was more than that. Jesus, yeah.
On a Monday, that was Stalin. I'm not talking about his lifetime career. I was talking about like on Monday, that was between breakfast.
So humanity then we've always been killing ourselves. Violence is what we are, right? And it should be that our reasoning and rationality should come to the forefront. And that's, again, why we say the Western Foundation is great, because we endeavor to better ourselves and understanding. So, what is his name? What is it called? The Elephant Man. You heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah. And during his time, when he was found and what happened to him, they made films. But again, it was always you're a freak. It was always seen that if you looked terrible, if you were born with a deformity, you were deformed of the mind, right?
But they didn't even care about his words or his thoughts or feelings.
No, but nevertheless, it's taken that we don't see that anymore. We understand things because we've taken the process to do it. Like the woman was it the one that it was mute and deaf in America, right?
And now we vote politicians based on their beauty, like Trudeau and Gavin Newsom and all those cuties.
Now you have Trump, but and he won big. Let's see how it goes.
I wouldn't say he's very attractive, but maybe you think he is.
Not the attractive thing, but the populist thing. That's why the globalists don't like it.
I think his memes are dank, and that's why he's so popular. But unfortunately, our country's the punchline, so I don't think the joke's that funny.
Americans are right. So
by the way, speaking of the Western values, the other day he defined 2 genders in our country. Finally, so would you say the West is making progress?
I would agree.
If your country has to make an official statement that there are 2 genders, would you say your country's doing well in the Western progress of society?
No, but
by the way, the year's 2025 for those at home keeping score.
but I mean, technically, what country is really doing super well though?
Exactly. That's what I said.
Figure it out, but like it's the individuals you have to look at. You can't look at the government as the sole basis, though.
I can think of one country that I would keep my eyes on. In Argentina, there's this dude named Javier Milei who's finally got tired of socialism and decided to purge it out of his country, and I think he has a bright future. Smart guy.
Because most of the time, the government is not a very great representative of what the people are.
Right, but sometimes it's a result of years of tyranny and corruption.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a result of just people
other
being
than that,
misled,
Other than that, the only countries I ever mention in polite conversation are places like Switzerland or maybe Ireland on a good day, but sometimes they have really bad backlashes as well. But again, America's not exactly off the top of my list of good examples.
Yeah, man, don't be stupid. You
I
have no
Well, I mean,
idea how bad the
America's.
world is. No, I mean, really, it's so funny because we're okay. I think. Have you traveled much? You ever been to the east?
Oh yeah, I've
Yeah,
been to
yeah,
the Orient.
you have. Yeah, what's it like?
Yeah,
I haven't.
I lived there for a while and I taught
Yeah,
English and
shit, bro.
I saw all of the wonders of communism. It was great.
Wait, China. Then you went to China because
Yeah,
yeah. Oh wow.
concrete for miles as far as the
Gee,
eyes can see.
yeah. Well, that's an odd thing,
They
isn't it?
tricked me into going there. I watched all those kung fu movies where they live in terracotta houses and they wear
Yeah.
the frog button collar suits and
Wow.
stuff. But in real life, they're just a bunch of zombies that live in a dystopian concrete prison cell.
But based on your travels to China, do you really think America's that bad
I think
compared to
America is
China?
trying to catch up with China. They're trying to be more like China every day because we're not
Well, the
socialist
corrupt,
enough for them.
you know,
That's
the corrupt people of America. But if you go out to the countryside,
I
that's
think the reason why China's
if you go out to the
economy
countryside in America, we're not trying to become like China
I
because
think
the
the reason
country
why
folks
China's
are
co-
Republican.
economy exploded so massively was because they signed on to more capitalism than America preaches. And so that's the secret to how they suddenly became so wealthy and successful. Unfortunately, it's still socialist slave labor, but no one
You're an
ever.
American, now, aren't you? Right?
What's that?
You're American.
I currently reside here, but I don't identify as
No, but
one.
are you
Yeah, he doesn't
American? You don't
identify as
identify. Were you
American.
born in
No.
America? Were you born
I'm
in
a
America?
I'm a conservatarian refugee currently seeking asylum in America.
All right. Oh, what? Oh, so you're
Yeah,
Canadian?
whatever that means. Don't
I don't
ask
even
me.
know what that means.
I
Yeah.
was
Okay.
born in America,
No,
but I don't
you're an
identify with
American.
any
Don't
of
worry,
its
man.
values.
Be proud of your nation, because you know what? I'm simping for your nation. No, I'm not. You guys are cool. I got family out there as well. I grew up a Mormon in Africa. It was very difficult for me. I moved away from lots of things. I've been in the military. I served with you guys, okay, in Afghanistan. It was, the best times of my life, the worst times of my life, sort of thing. I always say, like, holy shit, I've seen some power base, and what you fuckers think you're doing. Oh my God. There's always going to be the fruition. It has to happen. Don't be afraid. Be not afraid, if you will. Yeah.
I
Much
mean,
love.
if we're speaking politically, I feel like a POW in this country because the deep
Yeah.
state's uniparty doesn't even remotely resemble anything I would ever subscribe to. So
Yeah. I'm off for a sec. I've got to go.
so immoral socialist authoritarians are not people I support, and so. But
Oh,
thanks for stopping by and
yeah, have a good one, Plastic African. Have a good one, bro.
good luck in Britain. I hope you guys can salvage what's left there, but it doesn't look good. So, any other questions about Christian libertarianism, or does that pretty much cover it?
I think we covered pretty much the basics. I mean, I might want to have another interview at some point and go over a little bit more of the nuances over Christian libertarianism,
You can
especially
go
as
ahead
far as
and
the
get into
government.
some appetizer questions of like some deep dives you have in mind or whatever. Let me know what you're thinking. Like, what more details do you think you need?
Well, I mean, so how limited is the government, and what do you mean by like a more localized government?
Again, it's
Like,
kind of
what
the
does that
opposite of
look
what we have
like?
now. Right now, we have a giant federal government that controls everything. We have a state government that's like the middleman between the big boss, the cartel, whatever you want to call it, that's running our federal government. And then you have the local, little government that no one cares about, that means nothing in your life, that changes nothing in your life. And so it should be the opposite way. So in a small, limited government, your local government should be the only government you really care about because they're the ones that actually affect change in your life. And you can keep an eye on them to make sure they're not becoming corrupt and, getting away with like, crony stuff or whatever, fascism.
Yeah.
And then the state should be just kind of like only intervene where like your local government fails because they're so completely overridden with corruption or whatever. And then there shouldn't be really any federal government at all, other than like those 3 judges I told you that make sure the entire country abides by the rule of law and maintains our national security and such. But again, it wouldn't be like a giant bloated government. It'd just be like a very small office.
Yeah, so the judges and then like just government to run like far as the military and
And like your
border
National Guards
patrol,
general or
National
something,
Guards,
just
things like
maintains
that,
safety.
and
That's it.
that's it. And then the local government would control most other things, right?
Right. They would determine whether or not you want to form little corporations, privately owned corporations that do good things for the community, like build roads and parks and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That should be locally handled. There shouldn't be federal, determinations by lobbyist groups and by crony capitalists and all that other bullshit that we do now. Is it fixed? Is what fixed?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. What did Shiva mean by that? Searching for Shiva.
Oh, okay. You're gonna have to be a little more specific, and then I can tell you if it's fixed or not.
Oh, here, this might be it.
I had to delete the Birdo account. You start my machine and log out back into YouTube. Oh, okay. I guess he was having YouTube troubles.
Maybe. And then
here's
what a
Richard.
headache. LL.
Welcome, Richard.
Oh, okay. That was you. Okay, Shiva. I gotcha. Hey, Richard. Welcome up.
Peace and respect. How you guys doing today? Welcome everyone in chat. Hey, remember guys in chat, women in chat, please promote the channel. Be nice.
Yeah. If you want the best of women's values, vote me emperor, and I will fix all society's problems. Starting with the patriarchy. We're going to find you a good godly man to submit to, and we're going to fix this country.
I already have a problem with this. Vote me emperor.
Well, emperor already sounds like problematic. I mean, in of itself, that doesn't even sound like small government either. The idea of emperor.
It's the smallest government. It's just me.
How's it small?
Because it's just me, one dude in charge of the whole country.
That sounds like a monarchy where a dude rules.
Monarchy, shoot, those are the guys that serve me. I'm going to be emperor. Kings are for chumps. Those are the guys that serve me.
Kings are for chumps.
Yeah,
emperors are kings.
Emperor outranks king, mind you.
It does. How does that work?
It probably does because there's usually a claimant to be God along with emperor status.
Yeah, and kings are usually like
the Vicar of Christ thing with the Catholics.
Right. And kings are usually only leaders of a country, whereas the emperor is leader of the world, of all the countries. There can be only one. Anyways, the joke is I'm emperor of Conservataria because
calendar.
Yeah. I'm glad you got that. Because we wouldn't have any sort of executives or anything like that. We don't deal with presidents and governors and monarchs and all that other pope crap. Just good old tribunals that are locally susceptible to replacement if they engage in shenanigans.
Oh my God.
So, Richard, any objection? This guy. This is one of my haters. See, this guy thinks that.
Yeah, I guess Uncle Fatty is one of your haters because I know who Uncle Fatty is. I've run into Uncle Fatty before, but
he hates freedom. He's a bootlicker that thinks that we need more immoral people running the place. Because that's all I preach. And so, if you hate my message, what does that say about you? So, Richard, any thoughts or feelings or questions, objections, or?
Well, it sounds heavenly. The problem is that I don't think you're capable of being God. So
I don't want to be. I just want to be a man that's in charge of my own destiny.
Well, it literally sounds heavenly. I'm not saying that sarcastically. It sounds like heaven.
It's as close as you can get here on Earth.
A biblical description of heaven,
Mm-hmm.
a utopia led by a benevolent singularity whom is incorruptible and does not die of old age.
No, that's Jesus. We're trying to figure out an Earth government.
That was his point. That was his point. That
was precisely what I was saying. Yeah.
Well, that's why we lean towards the teachings of Jesus. As conservatarians, we're founded in Christianity, and then we build up from there.
Conservatavians? You'll forgive me, but isn't it conservatavians?
No, it's conservatarians.
Conservatarians.
So then, but that is an R. It's just bad glasses. Never mind.
Yeah. You need to clean your glasses off, buddy.
I do.
So the least corruptible government is a small government that maintains the autonomy of freedom through capitalism and Christian values. So there is no better government than
I
that.
want to add to that humility is necessary, and in order to have true humility, you have to understand the idea is not yours.
Okay. So I'm probably not the first person that thought of it, but I'm the most recent one that has. So I'll take that title.
Okay. At least I find it.
By the way, do you ever get inspiration from the Bible or Jesus about government? Like, what ideas about government do you get from religion?
Ours is screwed up.
Other than ours is bad.
Oh well, all of
good
them
government
are bad.
All of them are bad.
No, you brought it up, and that's what I've been thinking and talking about is biblical governance. What it looks like,
anarchy,
what heaven would look like. Yeah, yes, a monarchy, not an anarchy.
No,
monarchy,
I mean, here on Earth. No, here on Earth. In the meantime, what should we do?
Oh, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's.
Exactly. So the emperor render unto him.
Oh, we can have a constitutional monarchy for the moment.
Oh, see, there's another problem. The American Constitution, as nice as it is still flawed. So we'd have to fix that. That'd be step one.
Well, any constitution written by man is going to be flawed.
Of course, that's why you need me to fix it. The emperor will fix it for you.
Yeah.
We definitely take out all that DEI stuff and all that socialism.
Well, that's not in the Constitution, the DEI.
Have you read it lately? There's lots of amendments.
When did they add an amendment for DEI?
Well, women can vote now, so there's part of
your that's not technically DEI. DEI is not. I don't think that's technically.
We needed more diversity in our voting. No, I'm not like a woman hater or anything. I just love to tease the feminazis because we live in America. So,
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I think only. I'm kind of leaning more with the household vote, where the house gets one vote, and it'd be the man.
And who's the head of the household?
The man.
Exactly. So why do women need to vote?
There's been nothing more harmful to the female in history since probably when women were thought of as property like cattle than feminism.
I would agree with that statement 100%. Even first wave feminism.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Don't even get me started on like third plus wave because it's such garbage. It's destroying all society, not just women's society.
I mean, you as a young United States male, as a young U.S. male, if I said to you that I would pay for, or better yet, I know of a woman who would pay for 2 vehicles, a house, the rearing of the children, clothing, all of your reasonable expenses, provide you everything that you need for sustenance easily. And you would have probably about 4 to 6 hours left over per day that you could further your education, explore your interest in art or music or what have you. Do you think that would be an attractive offer? Because
girl power.
That's what women had in the United States for, well, quite some time, over 100 years.
I once read on a poster of Smurfette that said girls can do anything, so it must be true.
Well, that is obviously not true.
They're not even bound to the laws of physics. Girls can do anything, and don't you try and impress them.
They can't produce sperm. Never seen one do that.
They also can't pee standing up, so that's why we rule everything.
Well, they can, actually, and it's not a pretty thing, but they can. I've seen it done.
They also can't logic their way out of a wet paper bag, so
again,
that's why we run everything.
They're not meant to be logical. Yeah, we're men are the logical beings, not women.
Of course, that's why we rule everything, or we should.
You know, you could turn that same statement around and say that your typical man can't feelings his way out of a paper bag, and you'd be right.
And where do feelings get you?
Well, actually, in society, they get you stability, cohesion, cooperation. They can get you a lot in society.
Democrats, wokeism. It gets you all kinds of wonderful.
No, I didn't say only negative feelings and emotions and interactions. There's positive ones too.
Oh yeah.
Where there's positive, there must be negative.
Well, yes, that's obviously correct. We're flawed humans.
James got big. He's
because I had to change it so the Antichrist thing. Well, the James Light Talks, aka Antichrist, can be seen.
Big James, a big bad James.
Who's that?
Who's what?
Big bad James.
Oh, I thought that was someone else joined the panel. Richard Chase voice is on me.
No, that's how the original artist did Big Bad John.
Big Bad John.
Neat.
That's a song. It's like a country western song.
So, Richard, any constructive feedback, or did you just come here to?
Yes, I always have constructive
smoke
feedback.
Up my skirt.
Give up on it because it can't happen, and be assured that there is heaven. There's the constructive part.
Give up on conservataria.
Yes,
blasphemy.
And what you really want is heaven, because it's what all of us want. Here's something profound and ironic to me. Heaven is a place where, without disease, without theft, people live in perfect health forever. Nice. What is science trying to do right now? What are the main aims of science?
Immortality.
Let's say immortality, health,
and colonize radioactive
governance.
Perfect governance.
Perfect governance. In other words, what people want, even if they're atheists, is heaven.
It's heaven, yeah.
That's what they want. It's what we need. So I
put every human craves.
Sorry?
It's what every human craves.
Yes, it is. It is. It's what we naturally crave is heaven. Yeah.
So, is there anything we can do to get closer to that while we're here?
No.
Well, darling, if you want me to be closer to you, get closer to me.
Should we just let all the evil retards run everything until then?
Well, we have to. We don't have a choice about that.
Yeah, we don't have a choice about that. Yeah, because
I'm a conservatarian. Honestly, we have nothing but choices.
Well, we can try, but we don't. How are you going to stop all the people from voting in the wrong people?
With my mighty will.
With your mighty will?
Yes.
It's not your will that should be done. It should be God's will that should be done.
Well, what if my will is aligned with his will, though?
Good for you. Good. Excellent. That would be great.
So why can't I do good stuff while I'm here on Earth?
His will for us to do right now is to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and give unto God what is God's.
Right. So,
and if
you can't really
free market capitalism is what I'm hearing.
it's if
that's
you'll
not free
forgive the
market
pun.
capitalism. I don't think it's whatever Caesar
It's private
says.
ownership and
Caesar,
voluntary
render under Caesar. What
exchange.
is Caesar's?
That's socialism.
James, if you'll forgive the pun, there's two sides to that coin. Not only was Jesus saying that that Caesar created it, thereby it belongs to Caesar, he was also saying, let him have this worldliness.
Or just money and riches, because that's not going to buy you anything in heaven.
Well, there were parables as well. Remember with the coins and the servants, right? That he knew, right? So he was interjecting with that. So you are right, James. It was James who said that. But yeah, again, the kingdom that we live in the world, but we don't have to live with the world.
And what happened to the servant that hid his talents, Richard?
I mean, he dragged it up to have just the same as. He did nothing with it, really.
He said, "I buried it. I kept it for you. Here it is."
But he lost it,
yeah.
and it was rendered onto someone else that the one who didn't
mean,
use his talent.
So maybe he should have used it for good while he was still here on Earth.
Yeah, but the talent. Yeah, but what does the talent have to do with giving unto Caesar? What is Caesar?
Because God gives you gifts, and if you just bury them and say, "Well, it's an evil world. There's nothing we can do about it," we'll just
personally,
suck it.
I have no talent.
Wait.
I'm saying we should get out there and fight and use it for good. That's why I'm here. I'm preaching conservataria.
Yeah, but also it was about the way that he used his capital, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the other one that lost his capital.
Should we use our money on charity or to bomb brown people and murder babies? Which one should we use our money for?
Nevertheless, it means it's up to you. It's your, I'm not one for predetermination.
Should we use our money to build gold-plated homes for all of these heretics running our country, or should we use it?
I know what you mean. I know.
For godly people.
You're an honest man to do that. I know. The spirit is bright within you. Dude. I mean, what's coming there, it's coming, man. What do we say? It's all corrupt.
So do we need more socialism or more capitalism? Which one do you think will solve the problem?
Dude, I don't think any of this is going to matter the way that it's going.
Well, not with that attitude.
Oh, no. I mean, did you see it, though? I mean, the way that they're going to take what is capital, one's, autonomy as well, and they'll put it within... It kind of is there anyway. Your bank account, your tax code, all that shit is already there. Once they actually just formulate it all and take away active capital.
Well, they can try and squeeze blood from a stone, but it'll probably do them more harm than good, which is fine with me.
Not if you know the formula it gives you.
That's why you guys need to join my biker gang, and we could start a little club called Conservataria and take back this country. Or other countries, too. We'll do it in Britain, too, just for plastic. We'll have a chapter in plastic.
You don't even know if I'm already starting my own little issue. Don't worry, I know. The Western Foundation is great.
But conservataria is universal for all humans. It's not just Americans, but all people that love good and intelligent people.
Look, this is why, again, Western Foundation is great, because under, liberty and, what you can do with that bullshit, your capital, that's the key. That was it. And then it's been corrupted ever since, right? Makes it easy.
Mm-hmm. Looks like Sweater's got a question for me. Follow up on an earlier question. IFI says only reason for mobilizing military is direct national protection. So
gotta give him a minute to type the rest of that one out.
All right. Yeah, he's gonna hash it out. Like I said, if the ally we are working with is attacked by some foreign nation, we'll intervene there.
Oh, jeez, you just made a mess.
How's that?
Oh, that's just going to get sloppy.
No. It's pretty simple. So let's say like Britain and Conservataria were like trading goods with each other, and then Russia comes and starts sinking our boats. Then we send the military and take care of them. Done and done. And that's the end of our foreign policy.
And what if Russia offered you a better deal on the same goods than Britain?
then that's why it's called the free market. It's the open free market of voluntary exchange of goods and services. As long as Russia doesn't kill, steal, or lie against Britain, then all is fair game.
Wait a minute. Why would it matter if they killed, steal, or lie?
Because we have moral standards. We won't do business with immoral people.
Okay, so you have a higher. So you don't have business ethics. You have business morality.
Oh yes, that's the conservatarian twist.
Okay.
Because obviously we could do business with China, who employs
that sounds communist, though. That sounds communist.
Labor.
I mean, that's communist right then and there.
They employ socialist slave labor, so we can get really cheap stuff for Walmart.
You're a communist.
No, I'm giving you the example. We could.
No. But you just said that because if you have morals in that,
that's why we wouldn't do it, because we have moral standards. I'm saying physically we could, like financially, it would be in our best interest to take the lowest bidder.
Don't you think in the real time right now that with Trump and Doge and all that other stuff that crypto is coming?
Should the government be funding a private company like SpaceX or Tesla or whatever?
They have been for years, and they do.
They give it to the tune of what they can, yes, because of their asset, of course.
So it's okay when we do it?
Well, the way it was back in the day, right, is that government always had some sort of power and say into the war machine, right? And since and henceforth, it's come down to that after it was happening before the Cold War. I mean, that's where like IBM and all these other foundations came out of. That we're using today, fundamentals, and I guess, bro, that now it's that government has to invest in that because
sounds
it
like
doesn't
socialism
have
to
the
me.
It doesn't mean it can overtake it. I mean, that's the bigger problem there. But the biggest military might is that, and especially when men, are willing to do their duty for their country, no matter what they see as right or wrong, or how you dictate, America versus Al Qaeda or whatever it is, whatever faction they believe in themselves to be,
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. Let me finish answering Sweater's question. So, if a neighboring nation, in addition to its current practices, which would include abortion, abortion? Is that what you're trying to say? Started sacrificing babies, children, and virgins to Baal, should Conservatariat intervene? That was the earlier question. So, like I said, it's a numbers game. So if you have to kill one person to stop the murder of millions of people, then that seems to be the moral choice. But I don't think that should be left up for the government to decide, because, again, that's like a debatable topic that individuals have to answer.
He's trying to be TOS friendly.
Okay. Thanks. So I guess, are we not allowed to say abortion or something? Is that like now one of the TOS words or something?
Don't think so, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Well, if we're not allowed to,
I'm still learning TOS and everything, because it's.
This is one of the reasons why I hate YouTube, by the way. It's because when you have to speak in code to talk about stuff, it gets really annoying.
TOS is like tax law. You're never actually going to learn all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it keeps
a
updating.
Private company.
Then also, I'm not much of a reader when it comes to like different policies and stuff. I'd rather just watch a video about it and get straight to the point about what the words are. I can't say or whatever. And they don't have a video.
So to better, go ahead. So to better answer Sweater's question, if I was the leader of this country and you were asking me, should we do business with this other country, I would take that into consideration, like if they had equal moral standards or whatever, because obviously I don't want to help other immoral countries thrive and be successful, as example I just gave. Currently, like Walmart is run by China, so like without the CCP, Walmart wouldn't exist. And so everyone thinks, oh, but Walmart's all about Western values and it's capitalism and it's democracy, but no, it's not. It's using socialist slave labor to sell you stuff cheaper. So I have a moral problem with that, and I wouldn't promote that in a country I was running. But again, that's why it gets hairy details, because you have to debate that stuff.
And he was a country when being a country wasn't cool.
Yeehaw. It's a term that can demonetize a video. Okay, I didn't know that, but hopefully we don't get spanked on this one.
Well, it's not gonna matter. I'm not monetized anyways.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's not monetized anyway.
And you're not monetized either.
Me neither. So let all the freedom words reign.
It's not gonna matter. We're not monetized.
Even though I did get a strike on my channel for saying the V word, because you're not allowed to talk about Mr. Fauci and his CCP gang.
Yeah, well, you can't go down that road.
Yeah. So there's one thing you're not allowed to talk about.
Yeah, you're not allowed to talk about that.
Because we live in a Western free society. Remember, plastic? We're the example, the beacon.
Don't be playing games with me here, son. Don't be like agreeing that. I understand the rot. Yeah, I know what you mean. This is all again part of it's by design, I guess. That's what it be. There is an element afoot that's going on within the structure of the world right now. Of course, for a long time, it's always meant to be. There is something afoot. I mean, I would say and add, like, if you guys remember Enron, where I would say financially Enron was something there, covering it up, huh? And all the way through that we've tried. You know, when they were doing when we were mining, first mining, okay, when I started mining, I was very interested in this crypto stuff. And later on, don't get me wrong, but I kind of like thought about it. Like, I thought, Jesus Christ, what they were doing is they couldn't commercially find numbers, so they had to make it seem that there was a product here. So it was built we fundamentally, the global world fundamentally wrote a code, you know, and they made it profitable. And that's
this is your example of the most Western society you can think of.
No,
then
I mean,
would agree.
This is a global
society
initiative.
Is dead, has failed.
Well, dude, you're living in one. You're using the product right now, aren't you? Come on, you're not dead. So you know you're asinine when you say it's dead because you're in it. All right. You can't deny what you're living in. You think that it's okay. It's dying. You're not going to be there at the end, or you think it's going to happen in 10 years, 5 years, 2 years.
I guess when Rome was burning down, they thought, you know, Rome is technically still here, so it's not gone yet. No, that's true. You got me there. By the way, Gavin Newsom plays a mean fiddle.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you didn't know while California was burning down, he was just like, whatever, bro. Like, you know, there's no water and stuff. I mean, why would you need water to fight fires and stuff?
Who was he playing? Devil went down to Georgia.
But anyone who still lives in California deserves it, so I don't feel sorry for them.
I don't know. I do feel sorry for Californians because the city folks is what really messed up California. It wasn't the country folks out in California.
Anyone who pays taxes in the blue state should be ashamed of themselves.
Well, look, some people have to live in blue states because they're kind of forced to be in those states because of the city folks making it blue. It's not that they want to live in a blue state. They'd rather be a red state.
Not that the Reds are any better, which is why I said Rhino means right wing in name only, because the right wing is dead as well, plastic. Debate me, bro.
And I'm technically referring to myself because I live in Virginia, which is a blue state. I'd rather be a red state, not a blue state.
Do you think the Republicans are properly representing the right wing in our country, James?
I don't think all Republicans are. I would say.
Can you name one?
I would say the one that is the best representative probably for the right wing right now might be Trump in some ways. Because I'm pro Trump.
So. Do you know Trump has been a Democrat his entire life and hangs out with the likes of Clintons and Obamas and Bushes.
He's a center leaning Democrat. That's what he always has been. And he said so himself. He said, it's not that I left the Democratic Party, it's that they left me. They went so far. Well, it's still applicable. So he's saying,
I like how that's a denial. Like he's not even denying he's a Democrat.
It's not a denial. It's an espousal. I mean, he is saying it as a positive statement. He is a Democrat. He's just not a total nut job, is what he's saying.
Yeah, and he's voted in as a Republican. So
right. So he switched parties that he was better represented by what he actually believes. Because, as Conservataria is pointing out,
so
in its very existence, there are no conservatives.
I mean, don't you think that the problem is that there is a lack of, again, what I'm saying, that decree of what it is the Western Foundation stands for?
Standards is what we lack.
Oh, amen.
Any sort of standards.
Christian
standards.
The
standards will throw it out the door.
Exactly. That's the whole point of this conversation.
Threw the standards out the door.
So going back to Trump, two of his appointees are Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. Both of those are Democrats. He's filling his staff with Democrats, and he's a Democrat himself. And everyone says this is the best example of a right-wing Republican we have is Donald Trump.
That's correct.
Does that not bother you at all?
It should.
I think he's a businessman. And I think
of course he's a businessman.
Yeah.
That's why he ran Republican, because he knew they were dumb enough to vote for him, because the Democrats won't vote for him.
Okay, but the Democrats are in such violent reprieve, aren't they? Themselves. Look at their sanctuary cities. Look what Joe Biden Corn Pop did. Don't tell me he did good for you. And Obama, oh my God, come on. Obama took you like fucking Tony Blair took these fuckers here in England. You know, or the United Kingdom back in the day. You know, we have problems here with this guy called Starmer, which you guys would have had if you voted in, the cop. You know?
And this goes to the bigger picture of even culture. We don't even have to stay on politics here. The bigger picture of culture is the exact same problem. We don't have a right-wing culture anymore. We just have a center left-wing culture that feels like they were abandoned by their crazy left-wing opponents. So the only choice is left-wing or center left-wing. There is no right-wing.
But sir, what do you believe is the right-wing culture? What do you
Everything I've described, conservataria, is right-wing culture.
Okay, I did get most of it then, so I might be out.
I'll even give you a broad term: the middle class. The middle class is represented by the right-wing culture of conservataria. Have you seen anyone in the middle class lately? They're completely gone.
Yes, I have, of course.
Well, maybe in your neck of the woods, but over here, they completely destroyed the middle class. The only thing left are
I know. Yes.
The oligarchs and their useful idiot slaves. That's all we have left. The left wing or the center left wing are your only choices in this country. There is no right wing option.
What is an oligarchy to an oligarchy?
Oligarchy is when there's a small group of people that control the power of the government.
Oligarchy.
So oligarchs are like, the military industrial complex, the pharmaceutical industrial complex. All of the cronies that collide with our authoritarian government.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. You got
are the oligarchs.
Yeah. Cool. The oligarchy family. Yeah.
And they pretend like they represent the working man, the middle class, hardworking man. That's why you should vote for Donald Trump, for more middle class income jobs.
Some people have to believe in something, huh?
Or that's just the bullshit lies they sell you, and the idiot masses keep voting for them.
Of course. I mean, dude, how do you take, what we're sitting at 9 billion people on this planet, 9 billion at one time, about that, right? Maybe more, but about 9 billion. And you think all 9 billion are trying to be reached out like we can? have access to food we can? Yeah, you think that's going to happen? You think?
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. So what is going on with, again, the Western Foundation, Europe, America? Would be Russia as well. I'd always encapsulate Russia. The Anglosphere is different because that's the Western Foundation is mainly Europe into America and Russia. I'd say it is. It's part of the push of it, where it came from. And believe me, I understand where that the Renaissance came from, if you will. Was from the Venice and the I guess the arts bringing back the old classics that we almost lost. Bang.
Well, sometimes you got to start small and then work your way up to big. Maybe that's the way we have to approach it.
But I think that there's genetic understanding. Okay, that when you push or when you put certain say people in things, so if it's very cold or they starve or there's that mental status. That genetic order in them, if they go through about 9 weeks of this, their ancestral bloodline in their marrow will come out and start like adjusting to the situations. But like most people will give up. It's the mental state of the person under extreme stress. And what are they saying today about extreme stress and situations? Oh, take a pill. Oh, don't worry. It's your little existential angst you got.
If you can't beat them, join them.
Fuck off. Yeah. But
That's
exactly. Yeah,
no,
but fuck off. Be your own, man. Be that king. Be that fucking one that carries the cross that's bright as day. And just, go like, yeah, fuck off, man. Again,
I'm with you, brother. Don't start the revolution without me.
Yeah, don't worry, man. It started.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if I should respond to Sweater, but he said I'm not a conservative, so now my feelings are hurt. As a libertarian, he is a product of liberal enlightenment principles. He is a classical liberal, just masquerading as a conservative. Now, do you see what I'm talking about there, James? Do you see how some people can't separate the two? They always have to try and combine them and say, like, there's no such thing as a conservative libertarian. They're all just liberal, woke liberals. And then they'll say the same thing about conservatives. They'll say there's no like libertarian conservatives. You have to be authoritarian or you're not a conservative. And I say nay to both parties, that I am both conservative and libertarian, despite your hurt feelings. And yes, I am a classical liberal. Thank you, Sweater, for the compliment, because going back to Murray Rothbard and Ludwig von Mises and even Locke, I would say kind of falls under that classic lib category, which is why I don't like to use the word liberal, because in modern times it's completely lost all meaning. But in the old sense, it was to fight against the authoritarians and the oligarchs, which I agree. That's the whole point. Correct, sir. Unfortunately for you, Sweater, you can be a conservative and a libertarian at the same time. I know it hurts your feelings because you guys love licking boots, and you think that the only way to be a good Jesus-loving conservative is to subscribe to your giant government and make it bigger and more bloated, just like Jesus wanted us to do. And so
I don't think conservatives wanted to make it more bloated.
Oh yeah, they do. Ask them next time you meet a conservative.
What actual true conservative wants to make it more bloated?
All of the ortho bros I've ever met, all of the Catholics I've ever met, and even a big chunk of the Protestants I've met, all say the same thing.
I've not talked to too many that I've ever heard want to make it more bloated, but that's just me.
Well, you might be hanging out with the cool kids, but the general population tends to agree with those sentiments.
The general population, okay.
Yeah, your panelverse type.
I don't know of any.
Well, if you go outside every once in a while
out there,
you might meet some people like Sweater who don't like my brand of conservatarianism, because apparently I can't love Jesus and liberty at the same time, according to him or her, whatever.
Well, I think there might be a misunderstanding coming through the. See you later, Plastic African. I think there might be a misunderstanding. Thank you for coming up again and everything. There might just be a misunderstanding through the fact of talking through chat.
Yeah, it'd be better if he just comes up on panel and asks his questions better, because through chat it sounds like he's not a fan of what I'm selling, but can't elaborate on which
He might not be a fan of what you're selling, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't like libertarian, like being like, I guess, like libertarianism.
Which is the common complaint that I told you before. Whenever you talk to conservatives, the second you tell them you're a libertarian, all they hear is that you're a woke left-wing, typical Democrat or something, or like a hippie version of a Democrat. And so you have to explain to them the difference between anarchy and libertarianism. And then you have to explain to them that even though it's not easy to do it, it can be done. You can have conservative values and still subscribe to a libertarian, politics.
I can definitely say Elder doesn't like libertarianism.
Yeah, it's definitely gay. Yeah. That's all right. Don't even worry about that. We'll just hang out with the gay people and do it. You can have your straight authoritarian bootlicking and keep it all to yourself.
I don't think he's an authoritarian, but
that's the opposite of a libertarian.
I think the closest you can say Elder is probably authoritarian is the fact that when Jesus is king, and that may be a little bit authoritarian.
Oh yeah, I'm a favor of that form of authoritarianism, but like I said, we're not talking about a Jesus king, so sort of that. I'm
Jesus theocracy.
No, even if there's some guy that claims he's the Pope and he's the vicar of God and the word of God on earth, I won't subscribe to that either. So no, thanks.
I don't prescribe to the Latin's Pope.
I don't subscribe to any man claiming that he's the voice of God and the high priest that we ought to answer to, in place of Jesus. So no thanks.
Yeah.
That's not how we roll in our church.
Yeah, I got you.
And in our government, because that's why I said
you're like a Protestant, because you're not the dom.
Yep,
so.
I'm one of those dirty, filthy Protestants that won't subscribe to man's traditions and the boots they lick.
Well, I mean, don't you prescribe to some traditions? Because even
the good ones, the teachings of Jesus, I like those traditions.
Well, I mean, don't you prescribe to some form of tradition outside of that? Because even you making a decision,
like patriarchy,
even you making a decision, wouldn't it be considered a tradition? I mean, in a way of how you're going to
private ownership. There's all kinds of traditions I subscribe to, but a lot of them are losing popularity pretty fast, so they may not be traditions much longer.
So you do prescribe to some man-made traditions.
Yeah, they're not automatically evil just because man has traditions. My point is, I'm poking fun at the non-Protestants in the audience, because the reasons why they hate Protestants so much is because we actually crack open a Bible and read it for ourselves, as opposed to getting it from their authority figure who tells them all about their traditions and why that's more important than the word of God. And so that's why there was that little, Protestant, Reformation restoration process. So
that sounds like it's more of the Latins that do that. I don't think Orthodoxy would do that.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, Orthodox don't even consider themselves Protestants. They think that they are not Protestants.
Well, I'm saying like the idea of taking and solely going with like just not cracking open the Bible. Orthodoxy will crack open the Bible and read the Bible, I'm sure.
They'll always default to authority and tradition over Scripture.
Yes. In fact, they'll tell you so in no uncertain terms.
And one of their primary concerns with Protestants is that they call us sola scriptura, which is a bit overstatement because we don't rely only on the scripture, but we rely primarily on the scripture since we don't have apostles anymore. But that depends on who you ask.
Which I think that's how John Mosen explained it. The sola scriptura is not necessarily just relying on scripture. It's primarily relying on scripture.
It's kind of they use it in an insulting way to make it sound like we're so close-minded that we only will rely on our understanding of the Bible, and because we put scripture first. But anyways, it's silly. I opened them to a debate, but they wouldn't have any of it. So I think we already know who won.
Well, there are some that believe in handling snakes, but that's some mountain Protestants.
Yeah, Protestant isn't a group. It just means anti-Catholic. So that's a large group of people.
And then the whole tongues thing, it's technically biblical to speak in tongues, but it's to speak like other language tongues, not this weird tongue that Pentecostals do.
The neat thing about the world, Roddy, is you can find some Catholics and Orthodox that also speak in tongues and handle snakes. So the world's a fun place. The scriptures came from the authors.
Well, I would say the inspiration of God, but God inspired.
The authors were inspired by God, correct?
But I think Elder was trying to get at, well, men were the ones who wrote down the scriptures, so they did not come from men, kind of, too, because they were writing down. They were trying to interpret what God was saying and writing it down. You know,
the inspired word of God is who are the authors. Prophets, apostles, messengers, witnesses, all that good stuff.
What I find when people ask questions like that, they're often conflating the terms author and scribe. For instance, if you say something to me and I write down what you say, I'm not the author. I'm just the scribbler. So when John is speaking of God, he's just a scribbler. He's not God. So people seem to think that, you know, Matthew, Mark, and Luke and John are authors of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Well, no, they're not.
I can give you an example where one of the scriptures indicates both roles. A person claimed this part is I'm speaking, and this part is where the Lord is speaking. So he even signified where that happens. So it's neat how you realize that while you're reading scripture. But anyways, the only pitfall here is for the old school guys who love to talk about the infallible word of the Bible. There are some old school guys who think that when we refer to the Bible, we should equate the phrase the infallible word of God. And so the Bible is not the infallible word of God because it was written by humans, including their mistakes, including their revisions and their translations, but they were inspired by God. And so in spite of man's failings, the word of God still, the message got through. And so even though we primarily lean on the scriptures, we still are open to tradition and
I want to challenge that.
Go ahead.
If I said,
especially if the host permits it's his show.
Well, I was inviting you into a conversation. I mean, James,
we're on the host show.
Yeah,
this isn't my show.
he can challenge it real fast, and then after this, I want to be wrapping it up after this.
Oh, okay. I did not intuit that. Thank you, James. Okay, I want to give a little pushback to that. If I said some people believe men can be women. Now, did I say something that is untrue, or am I referring to someone saying something that is untrue?
You said it, so it's your untruth.
So I think, because I said that some people think men can be women, then I also must think that men can be women.
Again, you said it, so it's your untruth. It's not someone else.
I said something that was true about something that is untrue.
Okay, now you're talking in third person about someone else's statement, and you're correcting their false statement.
No, it wasn't my false statement. I didn't make a false statement. I said some people believe men. I didn't bear false statement. I said that some people believe men can be women. Now, I personally don't think that's true. Right? That is a false statement. Now, I spoke a truth about a falsity.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So in like kind, when, for instance, a gospel says that Peter believed, or that Simon believed, that doesn't mean it's quoting God.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to see that we were on the same sheet of music on that. Okay.
Plus, there's still the possibility that they are in agreement, but the message you're supposed to understand from that exchange is that the author himself recognized when he's speaking by inspiration or just his own opinions.
Right.
So sometimes your opinions match the word of God, and there's nothing wrong with that.
They might not.
But you got to be real careful how you phrase it, because if you say God said this, that's a very clear statement.
But if God said that Pontius Pilate had said, "Are you the Son of God?" which is a challenge, saying that he's not the Son of God, right? That's not the same as God saying that Jesus isn't the Son of God. That's God saying Pontius Pilate believed that Jesus was not the Son of God.
Correct.
Okay, so how can you say that it's not infallible? If all of it is perfectly true, how can you say it's not infallible?
Because the people that use that phrase are implying that the canonized Bible that we use today is the perfect word of God.
Are you talking about King James onlyists?
Exactly.
Oh well, oh my God. Well, that's a whole another brain right there.
You just ruined their whole argument. You just ruined their whole argument, because those are the people that usually have these types of arguments. But anyways, that's my point.
Okay, well, I think that a person could justify the position that the Bible is infallible and not be a King. Hold on, and not being a King James onlyist, because the King James translation,
even the canonized Bible, which preserves the original message, still contains flaws. It contains human flaws.
Any translation is precisely a translation. I agree.
I think you're thinking too deep on it. You're getting deeper than the argument actually is.
People don't think too deep. Lazy people don't think deep enough.
Right, but you are thinking too deep for the argument. Their argument is that the letters that appear on the page were exactly as God willed it.
I understand.
And therefore it's perfect. There's no flaw in their Bible.
Yeah, yes, and that God intended it to be written in English and translated and approved.
And he intended for editors to arbitrarily decide to include this passage in this book because they didn't get enough sleep that night, or because the king was yelling at him and said, we want that done by the end of the year. I don't care, just get it done. And so they just cut out big sections of it. And so, it's like, there's all kinds of human flaws, but that's not the atheist argument.
Errors. Right.
That's not the atheist argument that we lost the message of God because of human translation and revisions and edits and so on and so forth.
I think the overarching points are pretty irrefutable, pretty hard to miss.
I only mentioned it because sometimes in the company of fellow Christians and Bible believers, you'll have people say stuff like that. They'll say, "Oh yes, the flawless word of God." It's like, no,
they might write something like, It never had to be translated after the 1611 period. They might write something like that.
Here's all I say to them is I will agree that Jesus is the flawless word of God. I'll leave the argument at that. So other than that, I don't subscribe to any other canons or revisions or scriptures or anything else, because yes, it contains the message of God, the word of God, and it was preserved properly so that we can understand it and fully know what he wants of us. I don't use the phrase "the Bible is the flawless word of God" because it contains human flaws. So just leave it at that.
Well, you couldn't even define what it means when you say the Bible. You'd have
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That would be a misstatement. James, thanks for hosting. James, thanks
you,
for
James.
allowing me. And you guys have a great day. Thanks for adding my experience. Appreciate you.
And if you want to talk more religion, hit me up on my channel,
too,
Richard.
What's that? What's that? I heard you.
I said if you want to talk more religion, just hit me up. We'll do
I always
long video.
Want to talk religion. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he loves religious talk.
Well, James is here for the politics, so we gave him the politics. So now
I'm here for the religion too. I mean,
okay. Well, we can do that next deep
on this channel too. I mean, I don't
dive.
talk about politics, but
I think we covered the topic though. Now you know what a Christian libertarian is.
Yes, I do believe we covered the bases. Yeah, and got into a little bit of the nuances. I don't know if we covered all the nuances.
And there's always room for debate because, like I said, some people think we should intervene in foreign politics. I don't think we should, but we can debate it.
It's debatable, like when you should intervene. I would think.
I think once our country is perfected, then we can tell other people how to do their country.
Well, then that'd be a never intervention because our country will never.
Well, then we should mind our own business and let them deal with their problems.
Perfection is impossible on this side. So.
Okay. Then I think you agree with me. We'll mind our own business and let the other countries mind their own business.
I would say when we're mostly perfected.
Do you think we need to spread more democracy in the Middle East, James? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say we should spread democracy and force people to change their governments, but they're doing immoral actions they should change. We need to change that. We need to control people's morality.
Should we start wars in the Orient in the name of fighting communism when we have more communism in our own country than they do in theirs?
Well, we need to fight the immoral stuff, though. We need to fight the people that are being immoral, like the AHs of the world and things like that.
What's more immoral than socialism?
Well, we need to fight that, too. We do need to fight it.
But I like the examples that the chat had.
Granted, we have it in our own country. We need to fight it in our own country, too.
People sacrificing babies or whatever and stuff. And I agree. We should definitely not support countries that sacrifice babies, starting with the United States of America. I think we can all agree on that one.
Well, technically, we have to pay our government, or else we'll get in trouble. We'll have to render.
Well, then you're supporting the sacrifice of babies. So if you can sleep at night,
doesn't mean I'm supporting it just because I'm giving to the government.
You don't have a choice. Your taxes are paying for it, whether you want to or not.
But it doesn't mean that I support it, though.
I mean, you are, whether you want to or not.
I fight against the idea, but I vote for people that
that's the spirit.
Fight against it.
So join my biker gang. It's called Conservatarian. Just join my biker gang, and we'll take down the bad guys. I promise. So you know where to find me. When you find more recruits, I'll be around. Until then, I wish you all good luck with whatever country you're stuck in at the moment. So, and there goes my voice. So
stuck in the U.S., but
yep.
But
the best we got for now.
But you have a good one though, and
yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm sorry my voice crapped out at the end, but that's the most I could give you. So
yeah, I get it. You're sick right now, but yeah, thank you for coming in for the interview, and we finally got the interview.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.
You as well. Well, that wraps up my interview with iFi and the questions at the end and everything and all the comments and stuff that we got to and everything. So yeah, join me next time when I'm live, which is going to be in probably about I want to say I'm gonna take an hour break, hour 3 minute break, and I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna go live again. And I'm gonna be playing some video games because today's video game day to play some video games. So we'll be playing some video games in about an hour, and everything, and chilling on playing the video games for Sunday. And because we typically play video games on Sundays, obviously like normal, but this Sunday we had to make an exception because of war. We finally got the interview with iFi, so we got that out of the way, and everything. Well, you have to. Well, yeah, you have to render what's on the Caesar to Caesar. Um, but you don't have to be okay with what Caesar does as far as morals and everything. You can still fight against what Caesar's morality is, I would say. But yeah. I think that was more pointed towards iFi. I think your comment was. Um, yeah. But but yeah, join me in about an hour and 3 minutes, and I'll be hitting up the games. So yeah, see y'all then. Yeah, I thought that's what you meant. Hilderline. Yeah, I'll be back in about an hour, 3 minutes to hit up the games. So yeah, see y'all then, folks.